Hi guys, so I'm going to read Journey into Mystery number 96. So before I read the comic, I know that someone wanted me to read Flash number 106. I think that's what it was. I will read that the next DC issue. I'm just doing the rotation, like Marvel DC rotation I usually do. But this is the first appearance of a very minor character called Merlin the Mad. He's not the exact same character as Merlin the magician. He's a clone of Merlin, like the King Arthur magician, the Marvel version. He's like his evil clone. It's not said that in this issue, but it's retconned later that that's who it is. So behold, Thor, your power is nothing compared to the mystic arts at my command. Merlin's enchantment has stilled my arm. I cannot move. How can I break his spell? Thrill to the battle of titans, as mighty Thor faces the awesome power of Merlin the Mad. Superheroes, supervillains, in the marvelous Marvel style. The mighty Thor defying the magic of Mad Merlin. Hey, Professor, what's inside that big stone sarcophagus? The body of Merlin, the mad wizard of King Arthur's court. Merlin's crypt was just discovered in England, and it'll be opened by archaeological experts at the New York Museum tomorrow. So Merlin is visiting America. It's a good thing he's in no condition to practice his strange sorcery now. Story plot Stan Lee. Script R. Burns. Art Joe Sinnott. Lettering Art Simic. I hope I left the rear window of my office open, so that I can fly into my private lab without any difficulty. Yes, everything is as I left it when I took off an hour ago to handle that bus accident. I left an office full of patients. I wonder whether they're still waiting for me. Thump, thump. As Thor stamps his hammer, he changes miraculously into Dr. Don Blake, and then I can just imagine my nurse Jane Foster's mood when the news flash came over the radio. I was fluoroscoping a patient. I left the patient with her and bolted myself in this lab to switch to Thor. I'll bet Jane as sore as a boil about my leaving her in the lurch for the 100th time. But it can't be helped. First things first. I can always fluoroscope a patient, but I'll never get a second chance to rescue a busload of passengers plunging off a bridge. Oh, so you finally decided to come out of your lab. All your patients have gone home, or to other doctors. It couldn't be helped, Jane. I had something more important to do in the lab at that time. What? A chemical experiment? Urged to take a nap? I hammered on the lab door for half an hour. Yet you didn't even do me the courtesy of answering. I kept making lame excuses to your patients. Finally, one by one, they became disgusted and walked out. And I don't blame them. This is no way to conduct a medical practice. If you have office hours, use them for doctoring your patients, not for beauty sleeps or lab experiments. You won't have a practice left if you keep showing no sense of responsibility. No responsibility, eh? Jane doesn't know that, as Thor, I was at the scene of the tragedy a minute after I heard the news flash. Look, Thor's here. Maybe you can raise the bus in time. That widening ripple marks the spot where the bus went down. I'll need some of this steel cable. If I can save every passenger, if not too many windows were open, and the bus didn't fill too rapidly with water. By Odin! I didn't arrive a second too soon. The frantic passengers will never claw their way out at this rate, or in the rate the water is pouring in. I must wrap this cable around the bus. I must tie this steel cable into a knot, but I can't hold my breath much longer. My lungs are ready to burst. Now to secure my hammer to the cable, and then whirl the bus around despite the resistance of the water pressure. and away it goes, on its way to the East Side bus terminal. The hammer will guide it to a smooth, gliding landing. A few instants later, "Holy cats! It's the bus that skidded over the bridge! How did it suddenly become airborne?" "Because of that hammer. It's Thor's. Somehow Thor must have reached it just in the nick of time." Then, as the mystic mallet returns to its master, "I just remembered. I left an office full of patients behind me. I'd better be rushing back before Jane threatens to quit for the millionth time. I sometimes think I worry more about her than about any of the supervillains I've ever been threatened by. Flash, the East Side Bus Company just reported that Thor has rescued the sunken bus with all its occupants." "There. That's what I call a responsibility. You wouldn't catch Thor napping in his lab." Poor Jane. If she only knew. As the news bulletins continue, "This seems to be a day for unusual happenings. Today, the stone crypt of Merlin, famed wizard of King Arthur's court, was unloaded on a West Side pier." "Merlin? I thought he was just a legend. But if they've discovered his crypt, he must have really existed. I wonder if Merlin used his magic for good or evil." "Who knows, Jane? Certainly his dusty old bones won't reveal whether he was a villain or not. In any case, it's of no concern of ours. But little does Dr. Blake dream of what great concern Merlin will soon be to Thor. For the next morning, at the museum, as the experts open Merlin's crypt, "It's impossible! I can't believe my eyes! His body is in the perfect condition, as if he died only yesterday. Could he have used magic powers to preserve himself for 1,000 years? Nonsense! There's no such thing as magic. There must be some scientific explanation for this. The crypt may have been absolutely airtight." "Correct, or else Merlin's keen minds hit upon some embalming process we know nothing about. Let's retire to the conference room to discuss this amazing discovery." Then, after the experts leave and the crypt remains alone and unguarded in the vast chamber, "They've gone. My master plan is working perfectly. They think I'm dead, but I never died. Never. I was prepared for my enemies. When they came to kill me, they found me in a comatose state. They thought I'd poisoned myself, but I had merely used a magic spell which only my genius could create. The spell arranged that, when my crypt was opened, the rush of air would revive me after a sleep of centuries. And many centuries it has been. According to this newspaper, it is the year 1963, and the king, president they call him, of this land is a certain John F. Kennedy. JFK speaks to nation on TV tonight. I remember how my sorcery made me the power behind King Arthur's throne in Camelot. I would mix a witch's brew for the gullible fools. Now I shall read the future in the swirling murky concoction. Aha! Enemies approach thy castle, King Arthur. To arms! Defend thyself against a sneak attack. The knights of the Round Table did not know I used witch's brews and other weird dramatic effects only to impress them. It was I who possessed the powers, not the smelly soups I brewed. Bless Merlin! If not for his magic foresight, we wouldn't have been ready for this foul assault. Not only did I possess telepathy, but unique powers of levitation. Look, Merlin causes the contender to fly and whirl about in the air. Fantastic! The people are awed, amused and terrified by what they see. The superstitious numbskulls think I'm the master of magic, the wizard of witchcraft. Nobody in medieval times suspected that I was one of the mutants on Earth. So this guy's he's a mute. Oh, I didn't know that anyway. But so he must have been one of the first mutants, and deriving my powers not from any occult magic, but from within my own body. And I will need no sorcerer's hocus pocus in 1963 to work my magic. I have the real power to levitate myself, practice telepathy and teleportation. Within limits, of course, just as I am now transferring myself to Cape d'Or. New satellite to be fired into orbit today at Cape d'Or. All my unique skills still work, but I must convince this government of that. For just as in olden times, I intend to become the real power behind this country's leader. The eyes of the entire world are on the missile which they are firing into space. It will attract a lot of attention if I cause the rocket to change its course.
Hey, something's wrong. The missile took a sudden zigzag. If that darn thing goes off course, we may have to press the destruct button and blow it to smithereens.
Ha! After they've destroyed it, I'll come forward and reveal that this was just a sample of the things I can do if I'm not given the power I seek. At that moment, as Dr. Blake watches the launching on his office TV set. Hold your breath, folks. It'll be a terrible loss to the U.S. if that valuable missile must be destroyed. Pshh, thump. It won't be. If I can become Thor in time, then zip into the sky and find some way to put that rocket into proper orbit. Seconds later, as U.S. Army pursuit planes watched Thor streak spaceward.
Hold everything. Thor is adjusting the capsule's trajectory. The altitude angle is now okay.
There seems to be no mechanical failure. Some outside force must have affected this rocket. Can it be Loki? Soon after, as Thor flies to Asgard, home of the Norse gods. You wasted your time, Thor. This time I'm not guilty. Not that I wouldn't like to make mankind miserable, but the real culprit happens to be Merlin. You're wrong, Loki. Merlin lies in a crypt at the museum, dead as a doornail. Not so. He's tricked everybody for 1,000 years. He's as alive as you are. I've been watching him for the past hour. He's at Cape d'Or right now. Great Odin! If Merlin's alive, I've got my work cut out for me. With his fantastic powers, he could be a terrible menace to the Earth. Within minutes, Thor streaks to the museum to check on Loki's tip.
It's true, Thor. Merlin has vanished, and we can't account for his weird resurrection.
Because he wasn't dead to begin with. So for once, Loki told the truth. I must find Merlin before he has gone too far to stop. But as Thor flies to Cape d'Or, Merlin materializes in a Washington, D.C. police station. Since I overheard that it was Thor who ruined my scheme, I must get rid of him as soon as possible. If I materialize here, the police will send for Thor. Then I'll take care of him, for good. Turn and behold, Merlin!
Huh?
I repeat, I am Merlin. Contact Thor immediately, and tell him I challenge him to a duel of powers.
Listen to the nut. The silly season must be with us again. Yeah, all sorts of cranks will start showing up since that radio broadcast announced that the body of Merlin was gone from his crypt. Look, pal, do me a favor and get lost. We're too busy to waste time on oddballs.
Fools! By tomorrow you will tremble at the mere mention of my name. I have a much better idea about how to lure Thor to me, so I can destroy him. I will levitate myself directly to the White House. Minutes later, in Washington, D.C.,
Excuse me, Mr. Secretary, but this screwball just turned up. Says he's Merlin and he wants to see the president. First, nobody can see the president without an appointment. Second, the president has enough problems without being bothered by crackpots. That'll be all, officer.
It will not be all. I shall now dematerialize and introduce myself to the president.
Great Scott! He's vanishing before our very eyes. He must really be Merlin, the one who vanished from the crypt. Impossible as it seems, we gotta notify the FBI and send for Thor.
Soon, in a White House corridor. All right, dear. I'll take you to your mother and tell her to let you ride Macaroni. Perhaps that man with his daughter is... No, he looks too young. I'll have to search further till I find the president. Meanwhile, at Cape Door, Thor hears a strange coast-to-coast news flash. So, that supernatural madman is somewhere in the White House. I must get there as quickly as possible. And finally, Loki told the truth. It is you, Merlin. Ah, the mighty Thor. At last I'm face to face with the one man I must eliminate before becoming the supreme power in this 20th century. And the sound effect is crash. Sorry, Merlin. You're going back to the crypt where you belong. So, Thor, you hurl your hammer at me. Apparently you don't realize the sort of antagonist you're up against. You vanished. My magic hammer went through you, as if you were a ghost. But I'm no ghost, I assure you. I simply have teleportation powers, which I can also transmit to others. You won't get the chance, Merlin. Not after I seize you. You'll never reach me, Thor. I'm concentrating to make your feet stop moving. It may take all my energy, but I will stop you. I will! There, you are rooted to the floor, while I escape as free as a bird. By the time your paralysis wears off, I'll be ready with the weapon that will destroy you. Great Odin, he may succeed at that. His power is almost equal to Loki's.
Holy mackerel, look at that character. He appeared out of nowhere and...
The Americans call this huge obelisk Washington Monument. Just what I need. For I will convert it into a javelin that will finish Thor. At that moment, as Thor regains the use of his limbs, by the gods, he's turned the Washington Monument into a super lance. I could shatter it with my hammer, but I dare not atomicize a national shrine. Instead, I'll lasso its tip with my magic mallet and deflect its course. Back it goes to its original resting place. Blast Thor! He outwitted me, but not next time. I'll find something else that will permanently erase him. Then, as Thor races after the mad magician, You're done for now, Thor. I've levitated that building. In an instant it will come crashing down upon you. Can't get out of the way in time. It's moving too fast. But I sure can get out from under. Lo! Thor flies vanquished beneath the Pentagon. Whew, that was close. At the last instant I caused the earth to crack open wide enough to let me slide into an earth vault. Now to hack my way out. Minutes later, as Merlin exults, Thor, you escaped. But how? By what magic? The sorcery of my own wits, and an all-powerful hammer. Got any new schemes, Merlin? That huge seated figure. I'll make it come to life and it will trample Thor into the ground. You shall not have long to wait, my doomed foe.
Look, Lincoln's statue is getting up.
It's coming to life. It's moving.
Forward, mighty statue. Forward, and crush Thor, as I shall crush all who defy me. It's the end, Thor. If you try to fly away, I'll make the bronze statue fly after you. I can teleport lifeless matter as well as living things. Only one thing to do. Spin my hammer around at terrific speed. Just as I planned. I've created a fan which has enough force to blow Honest Abe back onto his seat. Plop. Brah. Is there nothing you can do to wreck my plans?
Soon as Thor corners Merlin in a wooded spot near the Potomac River,
this duel will end in a stalemate, unless I can trick Merlin with a little magic of my own. Merlin, before you vanish again, I've got a confession to make to you. If Merlin sees through my ruse, I'm finished. But it's just possible I might win this life and death gamble right now. You've changed your shape. You've become an ordinary human, and your hammer has become a walking stick.
I don't know, Thor. I'll do Thor's voice, but in Donald Blake's body.
Correct. But this is only one of 1,000 forms I can assume, Merlin. For my magic is 10 times more powerful than yours. If I so desire, I can destroy you right now. No, stop! Wait! It worked.
It worked. Merlin knows nothing about my secret identity. He believes I can change myself into anything.
Very well, Merlin. I'll let you live, but only on condition you do exactly as I say. I'll do anything, Thor. Anything! Then return to your crypt and cast another spell, or whatever it was that enabled you to sleep for centuries. The stone lid will be sealed over your body while you sleep for another 1,000 years. How do I know you will not slay me while I am helpless? You have Thor's word, but remember, if you should ever awaken to menace mankind, I'll be waiting for you, and I vow to show you no mercy. So be it, mighty Thor. I'll return immediately to my crypt.
And half an hour later at the museum.
We don't know how it happened, Thor, but suddenly we looked inside the crypt, and there was Merlin inside again, dead to the world.
Consider yourselves lucky he's not on the loose, and seal this crypt forever. Sometimes there are things science can't explain.
That night, in a hospital operating room.
Well, I must admit that if you do lose a few patients at the office, you lose no one at the operating table. As a surgeon, Dr. Blake, you're a magician.
Thanks, Jane. You don't know it, honey, but there's more truth than fiction to what you said. And the end. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you could like, comment, and subscribe, that'd be appreciated. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys later.